phrased in the form of a question. Gee, I wonder if white America will ever feel ashamed for the terrible way that it treated its darker brother. No, no, no. That is not the way that this line is read. It's rather a promise of a future where white America will look at the way in which it treated black America and be ashamed, dash. Let's jump to 2B really quickly. And of course, word choice here and symbolism is powerful, this notion of eating in the kitchen versus eating at the table. But let's ask this question. What do you make of that dash at line 17? They'll see how beautiful, but of course this stanza is set up with the word besides. Right? It's kind of like an afterthought. Oh yeah, by the way, they're going to see how beautiful I am and they're going to be ashamed. Now, this is an interesting word, and there's been a lot written, obviously, about this use of the word ashamed. Many have argued that what Langston Hughes is actually saying is that there will come a time when white America will have to accept the fact they are responsible for keeping black America in its place in the kitchen, to use the metaphor, for so long, subjugating them in some way. And when that history is finally pointed out, there will be a sense of shame. There are others who argue that what really is being spoken of here is that Americans in general will have to deal with the fact that their history is somewhat tragically spotted, especially in regards to race relations. And the shame that's involved here will be not just specifically about issues of racism, but issues of mistakes made across the board as the nation itself is growing. The dash sends a message. Some have argued that the dash says it doesn't have to be this way. That there can be an answer other than shame. There can be a co-celebration once no longer the darker brother is forced to eat in the kitchen. Of course, some people have said that the most powerful word is not actually the word ashamed in this poem. It's actually in line 11. It's the last word of line 11, the word dare. How dare, you could make the argument that Langston is asking this, how dare you send us to the kitchen for all those years? And of course, as we studied Frederick Douglass, the great emancipated slave, he would make the same argument. How can a people who hold as its founding document the line that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How is it possible that the founding document was written by a man who owned slaves, and by people signed the document who owned slaves, and by a nation that continues to promote the idea that slavery is an acceptable form of behavior? Powerful question. Powerful question. As American students, of course, in the 21st century, we have to accept, as we have said many times in our lectures together, our conversations together, we have to accept the majesty of our nation's history and, of course, the terrible tragedies of our nation's history. We have to embrace both. We cannot somehow imagine that one exists without the other. And the dash seems to suggest for us that there is a response. There is a response that each American must make. Finally, at 2A, let's just finish by making the observation that we go from singing America to being America. And when we get to 3B, we're going to ask this question about you personally as an American. Right? I am America, he says. Now let's jump to 2B for just a moment. We've already mentioned several things here about word choice. Notice the two pronouns that are absent from this poem. And I've had students, for example, who rewrite this poem using these two absence pronouns to decide whether it's a more compelling poem or a less compelling poem. Certainly, the artistic genius that was Langston Hughes played this game. Why is the word you not mentioned in this poem? Right? For example, just notice the reading of this. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. You send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. You'll dare never say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, you'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Well, why didn't he write the poem with that second person? There have been readers of this poem that said he sold out and he should have done it that way. He should have gone directly to the heart. There are others that say, he didn't have to do it that way. This poem speaks profoundly without the powerful you directly, so accusatory. Because, of course, we know that much of the abolitionist movement was a movement of whites. So to say you can be inclusive of all whites, which may not be healthy, because it may not be true. It certainly isn't true. What about the pronoun we? Write that one down. For example, how does this poem change to say it this way? We too sing America. We are the darker brothers. They send us to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but we laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, we'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to us, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful we are and be ashamed. We too are America. Question, why didn't he write with the more collective pronoun, we, as opposed to the single pronoun, I? Jumping now to 3a, back to Negro Speaks of Rivers, a poem that we just recently dealt with. Notice the same first person, symbolic first person. In other words, the I represents the us. The I represents the we. Let's jump to 3a really quickly, and the ways in which we can relate this title to other titles. We've already mentioned several. We've mentioned Whitman and Leaves of Grass. I Hear America Singing. We've obviously mentioned as well some references to Emily Dickinson and the use of the dash. We've already referenced an earlier poem by Langston Hughes, The Negro Speaks of Rivers. Think about for you, your film, your favorite film, where the realization of racism happens in the most provocative of ways, so that all people involved learn something profound. What is for you the greatest film where one of the people in the film comes to realize how wrong racism is and is ashamed? Do you have a film like that that comes to mind? Or a TV show? What is your favorite song to fight against racism? What is your favorite song of hope that tomorrow things will be better than they are today? That tomorrow things will have gone better, grown better. Finally, 3b, let's go ahead and try to relate to this poem. Let's ask several questions here. If you are an American reading this poem, is it fair to challenge you as an American reading this poem in a junior high school classroom in the 21st century? Is it fair to challenge you to look back to a certain period in history, obviously long before you were born, and be ashamed? Is that fair? Have you committed actions that are worthy of shame, either racist or otherwise? And if you have, well, how do you respond to that? Because obviously you can't go back in time and undo it. If you treated, for example, somebody in a racist way because of skin color, or in a prejudiced way because of religion or education or economics, if you've behaved in a prejudicial way, a biased way, how do you deal with that? Maybe you want to consider that at 3b. Can you go back and apologize? Can you say sorry? There's an argument to be made that that's the first great step as you begin to deal with the challenges of your own life. We have all committed acts, of course, that we're not proud of, no question. The readers in this poem, of course, who are going to be ashamed are the ones who could not appreciate the beauty of others. Boy, oh boy, let's think about that for a moment. Why is it so hard to appreciate the beauty of others? especially when their beauty outshines us. If you live in a family where your brother or sister outperforms you, why is that so hard for you to accept? Why can you not celebrate that accomplishment? If your best friend outperforms you on a test, why do you call that best friend an overachiever and ridicule him or her instead of saying, man, I am really, really glad that you're able to perform so well? Why is it that our human instincts are to try to demean and to subjugate when we see that which is superior or beautiful? Why is that? And can we change? Is that in fact the act of maturing? Maturity is the ability to celebrate the accomplishments of others. You'll remember, it's the same Walt Whitman that Langston Hughes loves, who will write in passage 46-47, a song of myself, I too am the teacher of athletes. He most honors my style who learns under it to destroy the teacher. The job of the teacher is to make the student greater than the teacher. The job of the adult is to make the young person more accomplished, greater. In that regards, it makes total sense that the expectation would be that whoever has been eating in the kitchen now will be eating at the table and will accomplish more. And those who had required that this group of people eat in the kitchen should be proud of that accomplishment, not just ashamed. How is that possible? Do you think that there is a chance that all people in America can consider each of equal value? And if not, why not? Where does racism begin? Because the last time I checked, when you put a bunch of 4-year-olds together on a playground, they don't seem to care about skin color, about religious preference, about economic superiority. They don't care about any of those things. It's compelling to think that we might someday be able to live in a world where we actually can appreciate everyone as America and Americans. Well, there you go, Langston Hughes' wonderful poem, I Too. Thank you.